Now, as starting point, I said there are three hierarchical. Here, three. Here are three involved regions. The lowermost was spinal cord, second one brainstem, and third one is cortex. Okay, we won't say motor cortex, just cortex. Okay, so everybody knows this spinal cord is lowest level, and whatever the reflexes are happening, it contains the neural circuit that mediate a variety of the reflex as well as rhythmic movement, right? The locomotion, the movement, walking, that scratching, all these things that will happen with this one. Now, these neural circuits govern the reflex movement of face and mouth. Like this is for regarding, we can say, like this axial system of the body, okay, for the spinal cord. So similar type of the neural circuit for these similar type of the movement for this facial and neck structure will be located in the brainstem. Okay, brainstem is the counterpart of the spinal cord for face and neck reflexive movement. Okay, so it will happen over there. So the simplest neural circuit what we have read till now is monosynaptic reflex, right? Monosynaptic, that's touch reflex, monosynaptic. But and what was in this monosynaptic reflex? There was a primary sensory neuron and a motor neuron, right? There was primary sensory neuron coming and then it was synapsing with the motor neuron. But most of the reflexes, they are mediated by polysynaptic reflex, right? Monosynaptic is the simplest, but again there were polysynaptic reflexes. So in the polysynaptic reflex, one or more interneuron were there, right? Few interneurons were inhibitory and few of them were excitatory. Like say for any flexion, there will be excitation of the ipsilateral muscle and agonist muscle, and then through the inhibitory interneuron there will be relaxation of the antagonist muscle, right? That was for the lowest level. Now these interneuron, see, this is the sensory one and this is motor, and if there is, this is interneuron. Now this interneuron and motor neuron, these interneuron motor neuron, they have input not only from this sensory neuron but also from the higher centers, be it brainstem brainstem or be it cortex, right? Be it cortex. Now these signals are called as supraspinal signals. These supraspinal signals either facilitate or inhibit this response, right? Either facilitate or inhibit depending on what kind of the reflex has to happen. Okay, now this facilitation and inhibition that we will cover in the coming slides. Now coming to the second part, that is the brainstem. Second level is brainstem, intermediate level. Now the brainstem, it has got two systems. Broadly we can say there are two systems for the brainstem. One is the medial and the second one is longitudinal. Medial and not the longitudinal, lateral. Okay, the medial and lateral pathway coming from the brainstem. They receive input from higher center. What is the higher center? The cortex as well as subcortical area. What are the subcortical one? In this one, subcortical is basal ganglia and the cerebellum. So we can say the basal ganglia and cerebellum, mainly they communicate with the cortex. Like they will help in planning, programming, send the signal back to the cortex, right? And few of them will send signal to the brainstem. Very few goes directly to the spinal cord. We can say they don't have any connection with the spinal cord. Okay, forget about few of the exceptions, but they do have connection with the brainstem. So brainstem receives input from cortex and subcortical area, and then it will project to the lower level, that is the spinal cord. So these pathways, medial and lateral, medial descending, these are the descending because they are going down to the spinal, medial descending pathway and lateral descending pathway. Now the medial descending pathway of the brainstem, it contributes mainly to the control of posture, How it will help in controlling of the posture? By integrating what kind of the sensation? Visual. First of all, it will intake the visual sensation, then vestibular, because it is maintaining the posture, vestibular, vestibular, to maintain the equilibrium, and the third one is somatosensory. So it integrates these three things: visual sensation, vestibular sensation, and somatosensory sensation. The visual, vestibular, and somatosensory sensation. So accordingly, by integrating all these three, it helps in maintaining the control of posture. Posture is maintained. Now, if the posture is maintained, what does it mean? Posture is maintained with the axial system, right? The axial system, the axis, we can say the axis of the skeletal body, like the spinal cord. So paraaxial muscle and all, mainly it is controlled by this medial descending pathway. Now the lateral descending pathway, what it will do? Lateral descending pathway, it involves or controls more distal muscles, like more distal muscle of this one. Medial controls axial and the proximal, few of the proximal, and the distal muscles, they are controlled mainly by the lateral descending pathway. Lateral descending pathway. So when we control the distal limb muscle, it means it helps in performing goal oriented movement. Like say I have to pick the glass of the water, or if I have to pick this pen, then my goal oriented movement is I have to go over there, reach over there, then I have to pick the thing. So while picking this pen, these distal muscles of the fingers, the hand, they are performing the action. This is mainly controlled or regulated via the lateral descending pathway. So especially of the arm and hand, goal oriented movement, distal muscle. Now the other brainstem circuit, these are the major, medial and lateral. There are few minor other. Those brainstem circuits, they control movements of the eye and head. Eye and head. Like as I said previously, like spinal cord controls reflexive and rhythmic of this part, head and neck part. Brainstem also controls. So that is this one highest, the intermediate center. Now coming to the highest one. And what is the highest one? The cortex. In the highest one, the cortex, what is happening? It is the primary. It has been divided into primary motor cortex. Then not only the primary motor cortex, then there are premotor cortex. Then this premotor cortex or premotor area, they are several. Like we can say there is a single primary motor cortex, then several premotor cortex, and these premotor cortex has been given different name accordingly. And these areas, they project whether primary or the premotor. There will be the supplementary motor that we will cover in coming slide. All these things, they directly communicate or end to the spinal cord through corticospinal tract. Right? And they also regulate, not only they go directly to the spinal cord, they also regulate motor tracts that originate in the brainstem. In the brainstem, the medial descending and the lateral descending were originating, right? So it controls those medial descending pathway as well as the lateral descending pathway. So these, and these are called as the corticospinal. The one that ends in the brainstem, they are corticobulbar tracks, right? Corticobulbar tract. Now these areas, the primary motor and the premotor, they receive information from where they are receiving the information. They are receiving information from the posterior parietal cortex and prefrontal cortex. These two. So prefrontal and posterior parietal, or prefrontal association area we can call it to be precise, they help in receiving the sensation, execution and sequencing movement. They help in like programming about the sequencing and planning of the movement with the help of the motor cortex. They help in programming and planning of the motor cortex, and they project mainly to the primary motor cortex, and few of them we won't say the primarily to the motor cortex, both the primary motor cortex as well the premotor cortex. So variety of the reflex circuits in the spinal cord and brainstem, it simplifies the instructions the cortex must send to the lower level, right? Must send to the lower level. The pattern of the coordination in spinal circuit is relatively stereotyped. See, I'll give you an example. A cat, if we take a cat, it has been done, these animal experiment has been done, like in a cat where the cervical cord has been transected. We have cut the cervical cord, okay, and if we provide the optimum body support and walk on a moving treadmill, just imagine this is a moving treadmill and we have transected the cervical cord of the cat will still move. Cat will still move on the walking treadmill, and it will bring its, say there is this obstacle over here, it is moving over this treadmill, it will move, and as soon as it touches this obstacle, it will touch the obstacle, then it will, after hitting, it will change its movement accordingly. Say this obstacle is there, it has to jump over it or whatever it has to do, it won't do until and unless it gets over there, get impact, get hit, then it will jump or avoid this one. But if the same cat is running in the same scenario, there is an obstacle but there is no transection of the spinal cord is already there, then what will happen in this scenario? As soon as it reaches to the obstacle, it will jump immediately before hitting it. So what does it mean? It means anticipatory. It has anticipated that there is an obstacle, I have to avoid that obstacle. So this kind of the anticipatory control, it requires the intervention of the motor cortex, the higher center, to suppress the oscillatory circuit that coordinate the normal stepping. So we need higher center to control the lower center for this kind of the anticipation. With keeping this thing in mind, let's go over to these primary motor and premotor areas.